Greetings, this is Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio News Report. A listener messaged me this story asking me if it was true that martial law has been declared in Chicago and UN troops have entered the city streets. As you can see from the title of this article on neonnettle.com, it's claiming that there is a mainstream media blackout. It also makes the extraordinary claim that a radio station was taken off air after reporting UN military vehicles entering the city. Now, they have posted a picture that is not of UN troops or not dressed like UN troops. We don't know if this is in America, if this is even in Chicago, or where this picture comes from. These could easily be the militarized police of Chicago conducting a no-knock drug raid or looking for someone. It could be the regular police, a SWAT team or something. We just simply don't know from this picture. It doesn't give us any information, but UN troops are usually distinguished by their blue helmets, and this has been for a very long time. So let's just briefly go over this article. Military troops in vehicles thought to be UN peacekeepers. So again, here we are. They don't even know. Have entered the streets of Chicago as martial law is imposed on the city. Now, do you really think that martial law can be imposed anywhere in the United States and it not be reported by multiple outlets that is not something that can easily be confirmed? Of course it can. It says, despite the emergence of heavily armed forces in the third largest city in the United States, there's a total mainstream media blackout on the events. According to WCKG 1530 AM operator Matt Dubell, the radio station was shut down when they aired a report by Alex Jones that revealed witnesses' reports of troops on the ground. Dubell claims that as soon as Jones mentioned United Nations vehicles have already entered the city, the radio feed was cut and they were taken off air. Now, there is no way that I can verify that. I do know who Alex Jones is. Most people know who he is. I've been following the guy actually since 1999. And he does engage in a lot of sensationalized journalism. He also makes a lot of sensationalized claims. I thought in the early years, he did bring some important information that could be verified, that gave you information on how to look at the world from a geopolitical viewpoint. But as of late, he has turned into one of these race baiters and what have you. And he has totally been on the side of police in face of extreme police violence on the streets of America. He is one of those gatekeepers of the system that seeks to keep people divided along racial lines, and he is not a person who stands up for liberty and justice for all. So, you know, most people should know that about Alex Jones. So let me scroll down. It says, according to IntelliHub, over 50 heavily armored United Nations vehicles and various pieces of equipment, generators sufficient enough to support a small army of peacekeeper troops were found sitting on the deck behind a U.S. government-owned warehouse and appear to be ready for rapid domestic deployment. The vehicles are parked in the rear parking lot of a warehouse building located at 11841 Newgate Boulevard. They were all painted white and bear the letters UN. Now, also, since the United States military-industrial complex supplies a lot of military equipment worldwide, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out if the UN gets its equipment, you know, what are they? I forgot the name. It's been a while since I've been in the military. I forget what they call the type of vehicles that you use for all-terrain. They're APCs, but the U.S. military has a name for it. So if that is a true report, just because you see some vehicles painted with UN on them, military-style equipment, doesn't mean that somebody's preparing, or outside forces preparing to launch some kind of military operation on U.S. soil. That's prohibited by the United States Constitution. There are constantly all kind of drills going on. There was actually a drill that went on in Charlotte, or coming up in Charlotte if it didn't happen today, that I had read about, because they'll tell you about these things. So this followed reports that government officials had requested drastic measures to tackle violence city streets in the United States, and are in discussions with the United Nations about deploying blue helmet peacekeeper troops in Chicago. Now, this is based on a true report, although this person is not a U.S. government official. They are a government official in that they are on the Chicago City Council. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But, you know, most lies are based in some truth. That's how the best lies work, is when they're based in a little bit of truth. It says the calls had come from Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykins in response to what he calls the quiet genocide. Now, that's true. As you can see here, this, you know, why would there be a media blackout on UN troops actually being deployed, but not a so-called mainstream media blackout on Mr. Boykin making this request? And I actually, Tuesday night on Black Talk Radio News last Tuesday, I forget what date that was, but it was this week, and I reported on that story and just how ignorant it was for this man to go to New York, to go to the UN, to talk about having UN peacekeepers deployed to Chicago to tackle the violence, because apparently Chicago can't get a handle on it. We see CBS is reporting that Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin did make a suggestion, and I read a story that he was reported right here. Boykin was traveling to New York to meet with Oscar Fernandez Taranco of Argentina, the UN Assistant Secretary General for Peacekeeping Support, to seek international help with horrific levels of shootings and other violent crime in the West Side and South Side communities. All right, so again, most lies, in order to sell them, you want to include a little bit of truth. So that part is true. He did make that ignorant request, apparently not reading the Constitution and knowing that the UN cannot do something like that. Now, also, let me go back to the story. I looked up this video. So they're going to show this video as evidence. But then when I open up the video on YouTube, this video was made in September. But in this article, they're trying to play like it was made recently. Good
evening from Maryland. This is Alistair Williams, and I'm with StockboardAsset.com.
All right, so as you can see, United Nations military vehicles hiding in Maryland, stored or ready for action. So this report is saying that they seen United Nations military unit with armored vehicles and support vehicles is hiding in Harrison. Now, in this video, it shows no troops. It just shows vehicles. And like I said, a logical explanation could be the military-industrial complex, either General Motors or whoever's producing these military-grade vehicles, are staging them to ship them to the UN because they've sold them to the UN.
We'll show you that entire unit.
Let me jump across here. He doesn't show any people.
What I have behind me and what you can see, UN there. Just a little bit. Let's see if we can focus this in.
Now, the rest of the video is nothing but these various pictures coming in at different angles. This looked like it was produced by Hollywood or something like that. It's just not credible. He shows no troops whatsoever. He just shows some vehicles in a staging area. Doesn't mean anybody's about to deploy anything. Again, the United States sells a lot of military equipment around the planet, and I'm sure also to the United Nations. But again, this was published in September, not this month, and it's saying that it's in Maryland. Now let's go back here. Again, it's saying it's giving you the assumption that, hey, he saw this stuff in Chicago. See, you know, and then it's saying he reported in August that he had spotted a trainload of UN vehicles entering the city of Chicago. So you see a bunch of vehicles and you just automatically assume that the UN troops are about to invade. Now it goes on to say, if true, this may indicate that martial law has been planned well in advance with vehicles already in position, ready to mobilize. And then they show, here we got Alex Jones, your shock jock, your race baiter, who is producing a report talking about UN vehicles entering Chicago. Let's look at the rest of this title and also find out when this was reported. This was published on December the 19th. So again, where's your evidence that a radio station was taken off the air? Maybe the manager of that radio station was like, hey, we're not going to get fined by the FCC for circulating alarming false reports on the airways and claiming that Chicago has been invaded by UN troops or whatnot. That could have been anything. I don't even know if the radio station was taken off the air. But again, all of this is very suspect. Okay, so let me see. When you are making reports, especially of something of this nature, before you believe it's true, see if you can find other sources that are not clickbait websites or these right-wing websites and these websites that deal in a lot of conspiracy theories without any facts. Now, it is a fact that you could not keep something like that secret. With all the cell phones that are in people's hands that can record video, come on now. If there were UN troops deployed, you will be able to see it. If there was martial law declared, then it would have to be made public. Well, you can't declare a secret martial law and the citizens don't know about it, or else it ain't martial law. This is crazy. Now, also, before, and Snopes also debunked this article, and not that, you know, Snopes is the end-all be-all, because they have published things that I felt were not accurate. But here are some things that are true. You have to, and it's just showing all the different known conspiracy theory sites that lack a lot of facts and don't meet the standards of journalism. Yeah, it's listing that all of these people are plotting this, okay, or reporting this. Now, before the UN can deploy peacekeepers anywhere in the world, the UN Security Council, which the United States has a permanent seat on, would have to vote on a resolution approving their deployment. So you mean to tell me then the Trump administration and Nikki Haley would vote to deploy UN troops in Chicago, and that this would be kept quiet and nobody would know about such a decision by the UN Security Council? That is very, very, very unlikely. So thank you to the listener who sent this story to me. It is a fake story that is not to be believed. This is Scotty Reed with Black Talk Radio News reporting. Peace and blessings to all